Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. Now, the main talking points today will be in regards to the dev Q&A session that happened this past Friday, May 25th, 2013. I wasn't able to, attend it, if you will, on TeamSpeak personally, so I found a transcript, unofficial transcript, mind you, by someone who basically transcribed it and then put it up on Reddit. So big thanks to DarkFlare, and I will put the link to his Reddit post in the video description. So if you want to read it yourself, check it out. Now, mind you, this is almost hearsay on hearsay, in one way or the other, in that his is an unofficial transcript, and this is me retelling an unofficial transcript. But I mean, they're relatively simple points, so you can be safe in considering their validity and accuracy. So let's see. First, we're going to start out with the topic of the economy. I mean, if you played in 1.27 and you played in 1.29, you know that there were huge differences in the economy model. 1.27 was all bunnies and rainbows, and 1.29 is just and it's gone, basically, to quote some South Park. But 1.29 wasn't nearly as fun in terms of economy as 1.27 was. Now, Gaijin basically said that in 1.3 what they're going to do, the economy model is going to be somewhere in the middle between 1.27 and 1.29, and that was kind of what I thought a long time ago, because 1.29's been out for a while. It's kind of fun being able to really be a part of this process. You can look back. It'd be fun to make, a little history of all the patches. Anyway, I digress, as I usually do. But yeah, so the economy model will be changed to somewhere a healthy medium between 1.27 and 1.29. So, as I said, you can check out the transcript. I kind of saw his and kind of grouped the different questions kind of by category. And then also you'll get the typical Baron musings, thoughts, and stuff I would like to see that are, I guess, let's start with historical accuracy. The context was someone asked the question, hey, I saw a B-17 on television which was modified several times and it ended up having 13 different turrets. Can I have this? And the devs responded, if it's historically accurate and did happen, then you will likely be able to do it and it will likely be implemented. Now, when that would happen, no one really knows, but that's kind of interesting. It definitely further kind of shows how Gaijin's emphasis is on historical accuracy. So certain aspects of the game will be affected. Japanese jets, for one, which I talked about recently in my past video. The Japanese tech tree and the Japanese tanks will also likely be affected, but I mean, fear not. The Japanese Navy will probably be one of the most fun navies to play. In early war, they had amazing torpedoes, they had beastly battleships, they had beastly aircraft carriers. They're going to be fun. So, historical accuracy, certain nations will suffer where they historically suffered, but they will be very fun in other areas. P.S. I would like to see the Italian Navy and submarines. But anyway, enough digression. Next topic that was covered. This one's going to be kind of a combination. It deals with airfields, and it also deals with bombing, bombers, and bombs. So there you go. The first question was, people were commenting on how, for those of you who played StarCraft or are familiar with it, Zerg Rush, 6 pooling, a cheese strategy. Basically, the YER-2, the Soviet bomber plane, people will squad up, will rush your airbase, and you can have a game over in 2 minutes. And the person was like, hey, Gaijin, what are you going to do to fix this? And Gaijin responded, and I think rightfully so, Well, you're the fighter aircraft, you're the bombers, you stop these guys. This will always be a possibility of happening. It is up to you and your team to stop that. I think that is fair to a certain extent. At the beginning, you didn't really know what was going on, but once it happens once or twice, you know, to quote George W. Bush, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, I'm not going to let you do it again. Or, man, his botchment is amazing. You know. But, so yeah, you're going to have to defend against that. And then another topic dealing with the airfields was AAA. In arcade, it's pretty easy to just run into the enemy base and just chop down all those AAA, so there's really not much defense. In historical battle, it's a little different. I've had a couple run-ins where there's been 4 or 5 guys on the last 1 or 2 who, you know, using common sense decided to run back to his base and use the airfield's AAA to defend him. AAA in historical battle is a little better, but basically there was problems with low flying targets, AAA not really being able to hit it. Gaijin said they had fixed that, but the ideas presented were, you know, what Gaijin could do. What they said was, we're kind of looking at it 2 ways. We're thinking of maybe adding more AAA as option A, or option B, which is respawning lower caliber AAA. Out of option A or option B, I would personally think option B is a far better choice. Adding just more AAA would make it very difficult to get those last few fighters, or, you know, not fighters, excuse me, last few players on an enemy team, because it is smart to run and, you know, seek protection within your AAA. So it makes sense that if there's a bunch of you, to take out all the AAA, but I think that the respawning of the lower caliber, you know, maybe light machine gun crews will come out from hangars or, you know, the airfield or whatever and set up in different positions. Maybe it'll be AAA vehicles. Those would be far more dynamic and interesting, as well as a little more balanced than just having, you know, a lot more AAA sitting over that airfield. And this kind of deals with another topic that was covered, where someone was like, hey, why not add a little more spice to bombing airfields? You know, bombing an airfield's cool, it makes sense. You want to put some holes into it, damage it, so aircraft can't take off, you know, which is why you essentially lose or whatever. But why not have other targets? So give more stuff for bombers to do, like attack hangars. And Gaijin said that they are interested in this idea, and they are going to put in more juicy targets for bombers, which I think is great, because bombing is a key aspect of this game. I don't do it a lot myself, but I think having it supported is a great idea, and also giving bombers more stuff to do and more tools to play with is great, you know, and especially with dealing with historical accuracy, which kind of gets into the next question, where someone's like, hey, right now the biggest bomb is 4,000 pounds. Will we see larger bombs at some point? And Gaijin said most definitely yes. And this also had to do with if it was popular, historically accurate, you know, prevalent within World War II, you are likely to see it. Cannot believe I just missed that Spitfire. So I kind of looked into it, and like some of the bombs that are bigger than 4,000 pounds are just giant. The RAF, for example, had a tall boy in the Grand Slam. Tall boy was 12,000 pounds. Grand Slam was 22,000 pounds. These things are just beasts. They were used to hit, you know, armored German U-boat pens. So you'll see that. And that kind of got me thinking, you know, what other bombs would be fun to see? Well, if you saw my most recent video, you saw infantry. Now, napalm was invented in 1944. It wasn't very common, it was used a few times, but it may be an interesting idea to add. So anti-personnel bombs, incendiary bombs, stuff like that would be kind of cool depending on the the target. You're going to have ground vehicles. If you have infantry as well, bases, you're going to want different bomb types. It adds more things for bombers to do, which keeps the game fun for bombers, which are, you know, a pretty good sizable component of, you know, the player base. You want to keep the different sections of the player base happy and balance things out. This ties into another thing. Well, first, before I get that, you know, it'd be awesome, British bouncing bombs. Hell yes. Look up Operation, I think it's Chastise, the Dam Busters, where the Lancasters drop basically depth charges, or, you know, what was essentially a depth charge, and just blew up dams to do massive work on the crowds. Another thing was German anti-shipping missiles. The Germans were like, hey guys, it's kind of hard to, you know, hit moving ships. Why don't we use our, you know, German tech and come up with some really crazy cool stuff? We're gonna make radio guided bombs. They did that historically. The question was, hey, you know, the German anti-shipping bombs, are we gonna be able to see those? Gaijin was a little hesitant, the devs, in saying, you know, we don't know about radio guided bombs, but I mean, anti-shipping bombs, anti-shipping missiles, I guess, would be interesting. I think radio guided bombs would be good. The bombers were generally heavily modified to, you gotta have radio equipment, you gotta have like a separate additional bit of crew to guide that. Generally, those planes are more lightly armored and more lightly armed. You have to take out a lot of the different components of an aircraft in order to be able to use these special bombs and missiles. So I think you should. Yeah, I think, why not? You know, why not have a bomber that can trade off survivability in a way to have better hitting power? You know, have a radio guided bomb. How cool would that be? Furthermore, Gaijin has expressed interest in doing a crew-based system with ground vehicles. It is likely that, I mean, I think it makes more sense to also have crews, and by crews they mean you and a couple buddies can be piloting one vehicle. I think it also makes a lot of sense to kind of have that, how do you say it, within ships. You know, when you have primary batteries, secondary batteries, tertiary batteries, any aircraft. I mean, if they ever really go above and beyond, and you even see CAM, which is basically the British stopgap measure, where they're like, hey, you know, we don't really have carriers, we have to fend off these U-boats and air attacks, so we're going to have catapult-launched aircraft from our ships. That would be a pretty cool, you know, aspect of a crew in action. But I'm digressing again. I'm just nerding out over all the cool things you could do with this game, and I hope they do it. But I think radio guided missiles, yes, they wouldn't be imbalanced. You'd have one of them. You could take out a small ship, you could damage a large ship. If you miss with that bomb, you don't really have anything else. They'd probably have in arcade, they'd have a really high, what do you call it? You know, respawn rate. It'd take a lot of time, and in historical battle, you'd have to go back and rearm, and maybe that could be extended. It'd be kind of like a novelty thing. It'd be really, really good, but you'd only have like one, maybe two of these special type of bombs. But the Germans were really successful. They had a lot of pretty good ideas. They had what was called the Fritz X. They also had the Heinkel. No, that's Heinschel. Man, so all you German fans are like, you're a nub. You're right. I'm a German language speaking noob. But the HS-293, they were pretty good. And if you miss with the bomb, you're kind of screwed. You know, if you get attacked by a fighter, you're kind of screwed. But to have that moment where you get to guide a bomb, or one of your buddies is guiding it while you're flying the plane, would be amazing. Adds so much depth to this game. Bomber pilots would love you for having these options. You know, but the Germans had these kind of radio guided bombs were flown out of the Heinkel 177s. Dornier 217s, which you can see in this video. One of my favorite aircraft right now in historical battle, just because it's kind of a jack of all trades. The plane gets in front of you, tear it up, and then you have bombs to take out ground targets. But also the Focke-Wulf 200, or the Condor. Now that is an aircraft I would love to see in the game. I mean, Churchill called it the scourge of the Atlantic, and he did so for a reason. It had great range and it could do some work. And then you had these radio-guided bombs. I mean, man, that would be fun. The U.S. also had some radio-guided bombs. They had what was called the Bat and the Azon. They also had some, you know, more rudimentary, basic type stuff like glider bombs, which were not as successful, but they were used. You know, I don't know if that'd be a good addition, but it would be kind of fun. And then there's Japan, and we all know, what does Japan do when they're, you know, presented a problem, or they're outgunned, and they need to come up with some fancy technology? Well, how does Japan come up with a guided missile? Oh, well, they did that. Kamikaze attacks, man. You load up a plane with bombs and you run it into a ship. But they went a step further. They created this thing called the Oka, or I think it was Cherry Blossom. You need to look this thing up. It was a rocket-powered aircraft, human-guided, anti-shipping kamikaze plane. These things were pretty sweet. Now just play along, try to visualize this in your head. Your buddy, you're flying as Japan, as the Japanese, and you're doing like a crew-based thing, you know, under the assumption that this would be enabled. He's flying his G4M Betty bomber, you know, and you're kind of looking around. Maybe you're playing gunner, whatever, and getting chased by some Spitfires or something like that. And then you know, this is when the naval component's in the game, so this could be months, years away, hopefully soon, and this would be amazing. So he's flying his Betty around, you know, kind of lower tiered bomber, but I mean, to account for this secret he has in his bomb bay, it would be a higher tiered Betty bomber to basically balance this kind of idea out. Now you get close to the ship, and this ship is, you know, it's an American carrier or it's a cruiser or something like that, and all of a sudden he drops you out of his bomb bay. You know, you drop for a little bit, then you ignite one of your 3 solid fuel rockets. Maybe you're so close and you really want to avoid the AAA fire, and historically these Oka pilots could fire any of these 3 rockets individually or all at the same time. So if you're farther out, you do one, then you do the second one, then you do the third one, you know, to kind of give you that distance. But if you're close, you fire all 3 at once, further giving you a little more to do within the game. And within this limited role, you have you have like 1 minute of just your heart's racing, because this is just going to be the most fun you've had in this game today. He dropped you out of his bomb bay, you hit all 3 of your solid fuel rockets, and you propel yourself right into this cruiser. You know, you hit the bridge, you take out one of the main guns, the guy's fire control systems are going crazy. He gets a little more time. Him and his 3 buddies who are crewing this cruiser are like, oh my god, we just got hit by an Oka. They're freaking out. You're freaking out. Your buddy in the bomber, in this crappy little bomber who's getting shot down by these fighters, but he is laughing all the way down because of what just happened and how epic that was. And it was like a holy hand grenade. That was a one-time thing within that game, but it was some of the most fun. You will always remember that. You best believe those guys in the cruiser would believe that, and they're all blaming their friend who was manning the AAA at the time. Was like, hey, how did you let that Oka get through? And he's like, dude, it's a rocket-fueled, man-guided kamikaze aircraft. What am I supposed to do? That is something I would love to see in this game. Now, this is kind of taking this idea and really just running with it. I would love to see that. And people could say that's overpowered, but there's ways of balancing it. The plane is not very good. If that plane gets shot down, you know, you get basically a G4M Betty bomber, which I don't know what tier it is right now. Not really bomber pilot. But then you ramp it up a much higher tier because of the weapon it has. Same with German radio guided anti-shipping missiles. You balance it that way, and you also give them a smaller number of ordnance to use, and the reload's higher. But it gives spice, it gives depth to the game, it gives you more to do. And then the player base is just like, Gaijin, you guys are geniuses for doing this kind of stuff. It's like we have our cake, and instead of just putting icing on the cake, you add radio guided anti-shipping missiles. You know, this is the bomber's cake, right? You have your radio guided anti-shipping missiles, and then the Japanese have their Oka. The Japanese don't have a very good or expansive plain tech tree. You know, they got some bombers, and then you add something like this, and people are going to want to grind their way through the Japanese tech tree to get this, to spend what would be, you do 10 attacks, and collectively would be 10 minutes of the best gameplay maybe they've had. You know, and maybe out of those 10 runs, 6 are successful. They get shot down. They get shot down by an enemy fighter, or they just miss their target. Any kinds of possibilities. But you have your cake, and then Gaijin's like, you know what? We're gonna ice this cake with icing a cake and more icing. So you got a double-decker cake. And I know that analogy is retarded, but it's amazing what this could be within the game. Now that I've talked on that for a long time, because of stuff I would like to see that was sparked by this dev Q&A, we can get back kind of on topic. So the next topic that was covered was airborne radar. Question, will it be implemented and how will it work? Well, Gaijin basically said, the weather in this game is beautiful. This is me saying this is not what Gaijin said. So the weather's in it's beautiful, but every now and then you get those night battles that have fog and rain, or just fog and rain, you know, in severity. Well, radar-equipped aircraft really can shine in these types of situations. So, I mean, it makes sense. Night fighting, radar was great, and then fog and rain, I mean, it'd be pretty cool. So that's basically what Gaijin said. For these types of weather scenarios and time of day scenarios, radar would be used. And basically what it would allow you to do is spot the enemies from further out than you would have, you know, last second, like, holy crap, all this thick rain, and next thing you know, there's a Spitfire 0.4 kilometers from me, and I did not know that. Another hot topic, really hot topic, airborne radar, derp, ramming. Everyone knows about ramming. You know, you've done it, you've been rammed, you've raged when you got rammed, you've done it accidentally, you may have done it even purposely, but rammings happen. We've all been a part of this process in one way or the other. And you trolls out there, you know about ramming. And you people who try to rationalize playing the Japanese aircraft are like, well, we did this historically. I mean, that's kind of funny. But the comment was that along the lines of that the ramming mechanic in the game is not 100% accurate. And the guy kind of presented an example. Basically, he said that, like, if a aircraft rams your elevator, I think it was, and then he dies, but then you die a little later, he gets credit for the kill. Sometimes people ram you get credit for the kill, sometimes they don't, you know. And Gaijin basically said, the devs were like, ramming is a problem and it is prevalent, but it is difficult to figure out who, you know, you have to address intent. Did that person intend to ram you? In some cases, and there's plenty of video example on YouTube, people, even friendlies, God, I saw a video where these guys intentionally rammed a B-17 bomber, and they're on the same team. That's just dumb. But you have to figure out intent. And people are like, you know what, the game should punish rammers heavily. Well, I mean, if you're an amazing pilot, trust me, I've been rammed, I've raged. And then at the end of it, I'm like, man, I need to be a better pilot. I need to avoid these types of situations. And then there's the times when my plane's been burning, it's blinking black, I'm going down, and you know what, there's that guy right in front of me. And I ram into him too, because I'm going down. I mean, that stuff happens. So how do you engage intent? Well, it's almost impossible. So Gaijin was like, hey man, it's part of the game, we don't really know how to address it. Anything we do wouldn't be fair in a way. So as of yet, it is really kind of undecided. So now a little brief talk on the topic of clans. The context of the question was, will you have Golden Eagle events for clan systems? And the devs were like, this is something we would look into. Matchmaking. I talked about this in my Jet gameplay recently. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Where you'll have the problem with, it's really prevalent with Germany because they're kind of on both ends of it. They're either clubbing seals or they're the seals being clubbed. They're the seals being clubbed when their jets going up against like 2 to 3 times the amount of enemy jets. MiG-15s and Sabres are jumping on them, just wrecking their world. And then on the other side, they're rocking their Doras and just clubbing little American planes. So there is that problem, and I mean, I guess it's kind of a two-part solution in a way. One is to add more jets, maybe, or more higher-tiered aircraft, and that will happen over time. 1.3 is a patch where they will add a lot of aircraft, so we all know that. But then also flight models comes in, and Gaijin was like, well, we're also going to be changing a lot of the flight models. A lot of the higher-tiered American aircraft are not, their flight models aren't there. The P-38 is a shining example of that, and they're going to change the flight model of the P-38, the P-47, and the P-51. So all of these aircraft, you better watch out, you Dora pilots. Your kind of reign of pain is coming to a close. Fingers crossed. So yeah, that is how the devs said they were going to kind of deal with this problem, was flight model changes. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, War Thunder is going to the PlayStation 4. Now, this is good for, I think, in my opinion, this is good for everyone. Basically, what Gaijin is doing is they're going to make it they said 100% cross-platform. PC, Mac users, PlayStation 4 users, we're all going to be able to play in the same game. You'll have those elitist snobs who are like, well, if you don't fly a joystick, then why they're just sitting over there in their, leather chairs with their fine scotch and their libraries that smell of mahogany as they sit around stroking their joysticks. I'm occasionally a joystick pilot. I have nothing against them. It's just the hate against the mouse and keyboard. Yeah, your blue collar bread and butter players of this game that really kind of support it. I don't know why they hate the people that kind of really can allow this game to further develop and go amazing places, because money talks, ladies and gentlemen, and the more people with more money mean more talking. But so it is good for everyone to have this, and people are like, oh, I can't wait to just troll on these people using the PlayStation 4 gamepads. Everyone's like, oh, fresh blood, easy kills, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's good in that aspect. It's good that there will be more people playing. Gaijin will be happy, and when Gaijin is happy with all that money, they will make crazy things. I mean, what kinds of things will we be able to see? Maybe we'll get to see those crazy little bits of, historical fun, where you get what we were talking about earlier, the Oka, Japanese guided rocket aircraft, kamikaze aircraft. You get your tall boy 12,000-pound bombs as a RAF bomber pilot. You get your radio guided anti-shipping missiles as the Germans and Americans. Bouncing bombs, stuff like that. You get maybe submarines, maybe infantry, other aspects of World War II combat we would get to see now, as a result of more money brought into Gaijin from this massive influx of PlayStation 4 gamers. So basically, that was just my thoughts. But they want it to be 100% cross-platform. More questions are kind of raised by that than are really answered, like, will I... But I think it's safe to say, like, will I be able to use my same account on my PC as my PlayStation 4? Probably. I mean, I don't see why not. That's my assumption. But and then finally we will end on this question. New planes. Well, 1.3 patch is going to be a lot of new aircraft, new flight models. It is a new plane patch. While most of us are just salivating for ground vehicles, and even more so, not even more so, but also for naval vessels and stuff like that, and to see, what is this crew thing we're talking about? Will I be able to drive a tank while my buddy's loading the main cannon and my other buddy is on the machine gun shooting at infantry and like hitting little soft AAA targets? Like, what's going to happen? But 1.3 new planes. And one person was like, hey, is the Dornier 335 going to be in the game? And the dev said, alright, if it is in our release tree, it will be added in the game eventually. I'll post a link to that in the video description. If you haven't seen those already, you can go to the War Thunder website, and they have release trees where they have these pretty expansive trees for each nation of what aircraft will be available, and obviously they could add even more, but that is a good first look of if you're really getting curious and just kind of want to see what will be available in the future. So check that out. Anyway, guys, this was a lot of fun. This is probably one of the things I really enjoy most about using YouTube as a forum for this, is to kind of discuss my ideas, get your feedback in the comments, whatnot, and just kind of really get an opinion on like what we want to see, what we could see. I mean, it's kind of an outlet for me to kind of propose ideas like the Oka in radio guided missiles, and very rough arguments on how you could possibly balance these types of things, but still have them in a game and just really add depth to this game. You're not always going to be doing these crazy little things, but you're going to want them. If they're there when your friends see it, they're going to be like, I'm going to play this game. I just saw them do something absolutely crazy. I saw them guide a bomb from 10,000 feet all the way down and just blew off the top of the Yamato's main gun. I mean, that turret is gone. That was freaking awesome. I'm buying this game. It's free to play. Well, I'm buying the premium aircraft. Blah, 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 blah. So, man, 80D side trips. Anyway, guys, I am Baron. Thanks for watching. This video is looking like it's about 33, 34 minutes right now. But it was fun. So, let me know what you thought, and I will catch you all next time. And the fire looked a lot smaller than, the typical AAA or vehicle. It was small arms fire from these German infantry. So I did my best to do a quick little capture. Probably will go in a little more in depth later. But this is pretty cool. I think it kind of hints at where the game might be going. Well, look at how lucky those guys were. I crashed that Sturmovik literally right through that. And out of all that fire, I only managed to kill one infantry unit. So, the question is presented. Infantry are in the game. Now, what is going to kill them? What can you use to kill them? Obviously, we have planes, but we're interested in ground vehicles, aren't we? Well,